Go ahead.
I'm Warren Strandell. I'm living in East Grand Forks now. I grew up in Warren, pretty much in Warren, and from age 7 until, well, after I graduated from high school in 1959. I'm 82 years old, hoping to be 83 this summer. And back in my day, we all had a military obligation. And of course, when you came out of high school, you tried to meet that in some way, shape, or form, or get around meeting it, whichever. In my case, as I joined National Guard unit in Grand Forks, the 231st Medical Clearing Company. There were about 5 or 6 of us from Warren, Alvarado, who joined that group. And I did my basic training at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. That would be from 1959 into 1960. And then came back to Warren.
Let's start with your basic training. How did you get there?
Well, by train. There was a train that came out of, went from Warren. It was a very small train even in those days. I remember being on that train and found out, this is kind of a side story, I found out I'd blown out my zipper in my pants. And the high school principal, Percy Gilbert, was on the train, and I talked to him a little bit. I got a safety pin from him to fix up my pants to get, well, first to the cities, and then from there in a train, a real crude old train from there to Missouri.
So, were you the only one that was going at the time?
Yes, I was the only one on that group, yes.
Okay.
Like I say, there were 5 or 6 of us from Warren who had joined the Guard at that time, but we all went different times.
Different times.
Got to Leonard Wood, and from there it was, you get your shots when you get there, all kinds of shots, and about half of us were sick from that. Was a flu shot. You got the flu.
Mm.
So anyway, got through basic training there. It's kind of funny because I was never a hunter or fisherman at that point in my life, and during the rifle training and stuff, I ended up qualifying as a sharpshooter, and had I not had to stand on the last day of shooting, I would have become an expert because I couldn't shoot standing up for the crap.
So, what kind of living conditions? Barracks?
Yeah, the barracks, yes, yeah. It was basic
Brick?
training. No, there were wood 2-story barracks units there, and I was just come out of high school. I was very involved in athletics in high school, going through a basic training, and had the PT test at the end, and I think finished number 2 in my group, in our company, 200 men. And the reason I was number 2, because they did the squat jumps halfway through the thing, and I did that in advance of any kind of running, and of course your legs are all tightened up and stuff, so I didn't do very well in that. But
So, tell me what a day in basic training was like.
well, it was, of course, it was early in the morning, and you were out doing whatever it was.
PT?
PT, and of course lots of marches and stuff. Like I say, I was in very good physical condition, so it was no issue for me.
So, were you with all National Guard or were there regular Army?
No.
Or
Well, I believe it was regular Army. I don't think they were. No, it wasn't all National Guard. We were blended in, and we were, of course, we're not thought too highly of the.
National Guard because they knew
Yeah.
you were going for 2 weeks and then you go home, or 2 months and then go home. Right?
Yeah, well, 6 months.
6 months.
Yeah.
Because you did the
Yeah, we did, and, well, everything really went pretty well.
You ever parade at the end of basic training?
No, there was, I don't remember that. I know I was shipped out to Fort Sam Houston, Texas, in San Antonio, right in San Antonio. And I was shipped out in about the second week of December. And then we had a Christmas break, 1 week in there, so I had to go back, find a way back to Warren for that 1 week break. And that was by train. train and bus and such, and back to San Antonio, back to Fort Sam Houston. That was the medical training center.
Okay.
And then we did our bit there and became basically medics, and not a whole lot of experience there, but it was on time, and everything was, programmed right from day one to the end. At the end of the 6 months, then back to Warren, and then from there I went to Interstate Business College for a year and to work at the Warren Chief, start of a journalism career that I hadn't planned on. And then about a year and a half later, after our discharge from active duty there, we were recalled, our whole unit, 231st Medical Clearing
You were
Company.
discharged from National Guard?
Not discharged, but back from
Back from big AIT?
from active duty.
Mhm.
We were,
So, let me ask you, when you were in Fort Ham, at your school.
Fort Sam Houston.
Yeah, what did you do there? I mean,
Well,
what was your MOS?
MOS 91110 was our MOS.
Which was?
With medic, basically.
Okay, and
And-
what did that entail?
Well, all kinds of medical procedures and how to treat. And of course, there was the physical part of it too. And
So they're basically training to be a medic,
yes,
field medic?
yes, field medic.
Okay.
And
What's the food like there?
what was good, I guess. I don't ever recall complaining about the food,
Okay.
but it was.
Good living conditions there too, barracks were,
Yeah, 2-story wood barracks.
yeah. So you get back on the train and,
Well, yeah, we were right next to a landing spot for the helicopters. They were training, helicopter pilots there too, and they'd come in and do their spiral landings. And
you remember what kind of helicopters? There
Well, they
had to
were,
be some,
well, there were the small ones first, and then there were some bigger ones. And I don't remember what they were called, but they were making a lot of noise when they're coming in. Of course, they did day and night, their training too, so you're
yeah.
in your barracks, you wouldn't hear them all the time.
So what was the weather like there at that time?
Well, I was there from mid-December on through April, or in the spring anyway. And it was, of course, the winter season there. It wasn't real hot weather.
Did you get, when you were there, go anywhere off post or?
No, not really. I did once or twice when we had MP duty. We still had that. And I remember I was riding with I don't know if he's a captain or a lieutenant, whatever, but he was showing me the area out there where we did bivouac and stuff too. But there was an area, there was quite a collection of deer, and he thought they were really big deer, and I thought, no, they're not big deer compared to Minnesota.
Yeah. Yeah, Texas, they're pretty small.
Yeah. But then finally, the training period was over, and then back, and then of course we did the monthly trips to Grand Forks for our meetings and such.
And was that a medical unit then, or?
Yes, it was. That's the 231st Medical Clearing Company that I call. That was the unit that got recalled during the Berlin crisis.
And that was National Guard, right?
It was still National Guard.
All right.
But then we earned veteran status during that year of call-up. We wouldn't have had veteran status without that. You don't get veteran status,
Just being National Guard.
just National Guard.
Now you do, but back then you didn't.
No.
Right.
I don't know I suppose now you do, just things
Yep.
have changed, but
I
yeah.
think, yeah. And so Cuban crisis, you were called up.
Yeah, we got more training at Fort Riley, Kansas. We were in backup to some unit in Berlin, I guess. Don't know for sure. And we spent most of our time either doing training and on bivouac or working in the hospital at Fort Riley, Kansas. I had gotten married in between the first 6 months period and the recall. And my In fact, we were married just a couple days, or a couple weeks ahead of the recall date. And my oldest son was born at Fort Riley, Kansas.
Really?
So I have a connection there. But yeah, he was 9 months and 28 days after we were married. So
Yeah.
things happened pretty fast in there.
So, did anything happen with, you were called up, you trained in Fort Riley? Anything happen then, or did you load up on trucks and go towards Florida, anything?
No, never left there, but we did find out that about halfway through that 1 year recall period, that we were placed on 48-hour call to go to Vietnam.
Oh, really?
But it would never happened. Of course, very thankful for that, because Vietnam was really heating up at that point
And what year was that?
in 1961.
Yep.
And yeah, it was not the greatest time to be.
Right. So,
And of course, a medic, you know where medics go.
yeah,
We'll
medics,
go right to the front line if we'd gone.
right, and medics, your helmet didn't have the cross on it anymore, did it?
Oh, yes.
Oh, you had the big
Yeah,
red
yeah,
cross on it?
Yeah, that was a good target.
Yeah. I thought they did away with it finally in Vietnam, but,
No, well, not in my time. It was, we
Right.
still had the big white cross. And
yeah,
like I say, it was nothing more than a target.
you were a target,
The
right,
enemy, you didn't pay any attention to that.
right. So, you get done with this duty and you spent 6 years, right, National Guard?
Well, no, I had joined the National Guard before I was 18 and a half. So I didn't have the full 5.5 years it was. I got by with 3.5.
Oh, really?
I was pretty much almost right after I got, maybe a year after I got back from the recall, that I was discharged from active duty. I was still, of course, on a recall list or whatever, but I didn't have any more meetings to attend or summer camps or anything like that.
So what were some of the summer camps you went to?
I went to Devil's Lake, to Fort, what do they call it over there?
I'm not sure.
It's off the tip of my tongue how it's going
Yeah.
on. Boy, just not, anyway, I was there twice, 2 different years. Once in the year between my first 6 months and the recall, one time there, and then once afterward.
So when you were at Devil's Lake, did you go out in the field
Camp
then?
Grafton, it's called,
Camp Grafton, in Devil's Lake,
yes.
okay. So did you go out in the field and set up tents or? do
Yeah,
anything?
we did some of that, but you're just there for a week at a time, you know. You don't do a whole lot. It was
Was
more,
it just a week long?
I think it was just a week, maybe it was 2 weeks, but,
Yeah, I thought most of those camps were 2 weeks.
well, that's probably what it was, 2 weeks. I don't recall very well.
Yeah, and they, back then it may have been different, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, it was it was more bivouac and more training and yeah. I remember being invited to ride on a helicopter, one of the smaller ones that they did the field evacs from. And in the process of, you know, touring the area and stuff, the pilot says, well, do you want to see how we land in Vietnam? You know, when you're picking up prisoners? I said, sure. So he went through that spiral landing, and I mean, you're ding, 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 you're down the ground just like that.
So it was a Huey helicopter is what you were probably
I suppose
on.
it was Huey, I don't, you know.
Yeah. Probably, yeah.
was-
That's what usually the medevacs were, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you get discharged?
Yeah, well, it was, yeah. The discharge was basically just a paper thing at the end of my,
They didn't try to talk you into staying in?
oh yes, there were times, and sometimes you're pretty close to doing it, but,
So how many people were in this unit?
well, it'd be 200 in each company. I know when we were recalled, we were about half strength, so the balance of the company was made up from people who were recalled because they had been not very regular in meeting their meeting requirements, and
Really?
people just avoided all of that, and they were recalled.
People wouldn't come to meetings and stuff?
Yeah.
Huh.
Well, they were from all parts of the country. They're not just from North Dakota, Minnesota.
Okay, yeah. That's something.
Now, yeah, about half the unit was recalls, and of course, they didn't come with the greatest of attitudes.
Right, right. And on the weekend meetings, did you go out in the field at all or do anything?
Not really. Most of the time was just in-house.
You go to hospitals or anything?
No, it was just the whole meetings. Tried to do training, and those of us who had been through the training, not all of us had been. So we were, doing the instructing basically at meetings and such.
So I'm gonna go back here a little bit. What made you go into the National Guard?
Well, we had, like I say, that military obligation, and we were trying to meet it. You had a choice of trying to avoid being drafted, which a lot of guys did, or joining some level of military. Whether you go all the way from 4 years in the Air Force or Navy down to 3-year, I think, Army recruitment, I think was. And then if you were drafted for 2 years, but then you had no choice as to what branch of training you were going to get into. And those guys probably ended up with combat training.
So did you request medical training?
No, that was the unit in Grand Forks that I joined through.
That's right, yeah.
So it was already medical. There was an infantry unit in Crookston as well. And I know some friends that went there, and they weren't recalled either, but they were more likely to go to frontline duty than anything else.
Okay, so you get out of the service, you're discharged. What are you doing now?
Well, I had a job at the Warren Chief in between the original 6 months and the recall.
Doing what?
Writing, reporting for Neil Matson and the Warren Chief.
Okay.
And then after I was discharged from active duty, I went back to the Warren Chief, and then I ended up in a newspaper career after that. So I had 2 years basically total at Warren Chief, and 2 years at the Austin Daily Herald in Austin, Minnesota, and 4 years at the Evening Tribune in Albert Lee, Minnesota, which was right next door there. So I had 6 years down in southern Minnesota, and then ended up at the Grand Forks Herald. I was there for 10 years, starting as the city editor and became valley editor, and in the last year there in the sports department. And at that point, then Annie and my wife Annie and I started the Exponent newspaper in East Grand Forks, a weekly newspaper, in competition to a newspaper that was already there. Wasn't being run very well. So it was really an experience, because you start a paid circulation newspaper and you don't have any subscribers. So we had refinanced our home to get every bit of equity we had there.
Oh, wow.
$28,000. Spent it on equipment, typesetting equipment and darkroom equipment, and just
Starting right from the bottom, huh?
right from the bottom.
Yeah.
And we had the first 3 weeks of publication there, we had announced that they would be free to everybody that we could get the paper to. We hand-delivered it to all the homes in East Grand Forks, my friend and his 2 sons and my 2 older sons, and a couple of other groups that we got to help. But we would hand-deliver them through town to every house we could. And then we deliver them to all the rural routes, and also to people in Austin, or Alvarado, and Oslo, and Climax.
Oh, wow.
So we had quite an investment in that, and the idea was that you'd get the paper free for 3 weeks. After that, you had to be a subscriber. At the end of 3 weeks, we had 1,200 subscribers.
Oh, wow.
So
Yeah, so you must have had a pretty good paper.
people were ready.
What's the name of the paper?
The Exponent.
Okay.
And it's, like I say, it's still there.
Oh, good.
We operated that for about 13 and a half years. And one day, sitting in the office there, a fellow from Ada, Minnesota, Raleigh Bergman came in. I'd known him a little bit, and we talked for a while. And he said, would you guys ever be interested in selling the newspaper? And I said, get out your checkbook. We were just burned out. We had just worked too hard for too long, and really nothing left to give, and that was a blessing in disguise.
So we made out pretty good then, or?
Well, we made out. I wasn't smart enough to know that you had to have a whole lot of advertisers. I thought if you had a fantastic news product, that
You wouldn't have,
advertisers would come running, but that wasn't the case.
no,
But we had enough we survived. It was good,
made a good living,
a good living, but could have been a lot better had we done things differently.
yeah.
And the people who own it now, same people,
What do they say, live and learn, right?
yeah, same people, they know how to sell advertising, and they're doing very well.
Oh, good, good. So anything about your military career that stands out?
No, just.
Any regrets for doing it?
No, it wasn't, it wasn't any regret at all of how I met my obligation. A lot of my friends didn't meet it, but like I say, there was a military obligation that was in place at that point.
Right. Good. Anything else you want to add, Warren?
No, that should be enough.
Okay. Well, Warren, I want to thank you for doing this interview, and thank you for your service.
Well, thank you. Are you a veteran?